Hey everyone, my name is David Dunbar, or the Theme Park Evangelist. Well, it's another just regular day off, and this is my first Monday off in at least a couple of months. So I figured that this would be another perfect opportunity for me to work on my YouTube channel some more. And also, it's another one of those sit around the house kind of days, which is kind of nice. I did at least go out and get some stuff done around the house, well, out of the house. I went and got myself a steak, egg, and cheese footlong sub from Subway this morning. Then I went down to the Boone County Recycling Center and I dropped off the recycling that's actually been sitting in my car for the past couple of days. Last night I vacuumed my car for the first time in a couple of months, which is really gross, but it looks really nice now. I did a good job. I really do put a lot of detail and work into the car. Then I went over to Meyer and I got some groceries done. Of course, I went socialize the entire time. After an hour, I was like, oh, I better get home. I felt my blood sugar starting to drop. I don't know if I'm diabetic or not, but I definitely started feeling like I was getting weak. I was like, oh, I need to eat something. And as soon as I ate something, I was like, oh, I feel so much better. So I took care of some laundry and I figured I might as well just sit down and relax. My Chromebook is getting low on battery. I haven't charged it in a while, but I do have enough battery to get a couple of YouTube videos done, and then I'm going to go plug it back into my room. So, I'm going to go ahead and get started on my YouTube video. I just suddenly realized my breakfast is still sitting here in the way, so I'm going to push it out of the way. That's a little better. So I don't want you guys to sit there and look at that the entire time. Oh my. What am I sitting on here? That's a little better. But otherwise, I do work for the next 5 days straight. Tomorrow evening, I'm meeting up with Tristan and Caitlin here in Florence. I'm actually going to be taking Caitlin all the way out here and then all the way back to work to get back in her car because she still lives in Georgetown. I am going to be moving in with a coworker, not saying names, by July, so that'll be exciting. So I'm really looking forward to moving in with a coworker. It was going to originally be my brother, but I talked to him about it, and he said, do whatever is best for you, and I said, as long as I don't hurt you in the process, and it sounds like he's cool with it, so I'm going to be moving in with a coworker by July, looking in the Florence area. This coworker is going to be moving a great distance just to get here. But I'm very happy that I'm going to have someone else that I can live with. And the best part is, it'll be at least 2 months quicker or closer than I was originally going to move, because my brother is not really in any hurry to move at this time. But anyhow, since my laptop battery is kind of low, I figured that I would go ahead and get started on my discussion topic today for my high school days. The next one I wanted to talk to you guys about is just purely all going to be about just Christianity, the Bible, whatnot. And if you guys are not so much interested in hearing about this, I would advise you just to go ahead and hit that exit button on the top right hand corner of your screen, because I don't want to force anybody to listen to it. But for those of you who are interested, I definitely appreciate you. So first of all, you guys should know that Candlelight Christian Academy was a non-denominational school. However, though, I would consider it more of a Methodist school. And if you guys are wondering what a Methodist school teaches, well, we're going to get into that actually. So instead of me just kind of telling you guys what they taught us, I would prefer just kind of telling you guys what they taught us by going over this YouTube video, what our chapel services were like, or what my chapel services were like, more or less. So, first of all, a just regular chapel service for me was every Wednesday. Wednesday was a very big day back then, and for my high school me to just fully just focus on God, and it was mandatory that everybody had to go to chapel. So we would get to chapel usually about 8:30 in the morning. Like, everybody had to go to chapel like first thing in the morning. That was not an exception. And we would get to chapel, and we always started out with worship. We always had to stand for worship, so it was about half an hour long. And then we would all sit down afterwards. If I remember correctly, when we originally did have pews in our sanctuary, because originally our sanctuary where we met for literally almost everything, including chapel, was an original church, and then we got rid of all the pews, and then eventually another church came and bought out the school later on in the years, but that's besides the point. So originally we would stand at the pews, and then later, after we got rid of the pews, we just moved closer to the stage. Well, originally I started out just as a regular student. I would just stand there and sing from the pews. Then my English teacher later on started mentioning that he was interested in getting students like interested in the praise band or whatever, the praise team, whatever you want to call it. And I didn't really have any musical talent per se. I mean, I've done handbells in middle school, just so you guys have a little bit of a background. When I was in middle school, I was very involved in the handbell choir. In fact, our handbell choir was so good that we went out to Inverness, Florida, numerous times, and we performed out there. Only one time did we actually win the handbell competition. We went out to West Palm Beach, Florida. So, the West Coast, in other words. Actually, no, I take that back. That's the East Coast. I'm so sorry. I had to think about that. And we went up to their state competition, and we performed out there. So, I have that background. I also do know some recorder. So, a recorder is a musical instrument that you play like this, almost like a flute. And you have to, move your fingers around to cover the holes. So I also had that background. No, I was never good at it, but I enjoyed it. Also, a number of years ago when I was in middle school, I also took a piano. So I did get all the way to year 2. And then I just basically got so focused on school that I started asking myself, do I want to balance my time better and make it work, which I could have, and I still could go back to piano, or do I just want to be a big wuss and just call it a quits and just focus completely on school, which is exactly what I did. I know, stupidest decision I ever made, but that's exactly what I did. But at least you guys have that background about me. Also, back in middle school, I took up acting for the very first time. So, when I was in middle school as well, my music teacher, who also taught me piano and recorder and handbells, just so you know who I'm referring to, she wanted to do Christian-based musical plays. So, yes, it was a musical, but it was a play all in one. And I, more or less, would stand in front of a large congregation of parents, which is kind of nerve-wracking, and kids for that matter, and I would put on a play that led people to Christ, which is kind of cool. But how does that correlate with what I'm getting at? So, I just wanted you guys to be aware that I did have a musical background. So, when I was offered the chance to get involved in another praise band, of course I was going to take it up, but I would think, okay, what kind of instruments could I play up there? They didn't really have a lot. Well, I started mentioning all the different instruments that I did know how to play, and then he asked me, well, do you know how to play bongos? And I said, no, not really. And then he kind of gave me an idea. And then I said, yeah, I think I could do that. So I ended up doing bongos the majority of my high school life. For chapel, I always had to get to. I'm so sorry. I always had to get to high school a little early, so I got there maybe about half an hour early. Not a big deal. And I would go up and practice with them. And I just kind of found a beat or a rhythm, and I just went with it. And I was up there literally every Wednesday morning, and I just played bongos instead of actually sitting in the audience or standing in the audience and singing. I would instead be up there playing the bongos, as cool as that is. And also, for those of you who don't know me that well, I'll tell you right now, I got the calling to be in the ministry when I was back in 2006. So it's not like I've had this calling for only a few years. I've actually had the calling since 2006. So we're talking 16 years now. I've had the calling to go into the ministry. I've had the calling to do some kind of ministry work, whether it's pastor or something, which reminds me I need to email a friend today and let him know that I want to meet up with him sometime and discuss further about being a biblical counselor, which I think would be more up my alley. Still in the ministry, and it still allows me to stay with Answers in Genesis if I want to, which is still a ministry. But anyway, so also, why did I bring up that? Well, what I'm getting at is I eventually started leading the messages at my school, but first of all, I want you guys to know that for the longest time, I did sit there and I listened to various people go up and speak. I've heard pastors from different churches. I heard from different teachers. They did different videos. There was even a video called I Am Second, and Lecrae was part of I Am Second. And that really touched me. I was like, wow, I never knew Lecrae had such a background. And I would say the one that really hit me the hardest, young guy, his name is Adam. I'm not going to say his last name for privacy reasons. But when he was still alive, he died at a young age, unfortunately. He would have been in his late 20s like I am right now if he were still around, if I'm not mistaken. He used to pick on me a little bit. I think it's just because he didn't know me that well, but he was one of the few people that actually wished me a happy birthday when I first started the school, just so you guys know. So he wasn't all that bad. I think he just liked to tease me a little bit just to give me a hard time. And one time his pastor went up and preached, and I think it was November, which is Epilepsy Awareness Month. And he started mentioning that his member, Adam, had epilepsy. And that really hit me hard because I felt like I was the only one who had it. And I went and talked to him, and I was like, I didn't know you also had it. He was like, yeah, of course. Because I always felt like an idiot for carrying around a purple lunchbox. Yes, back in high school, I had a purple lunchbox. Mock me all you want, but after I heard that, and I found out that purple stands for Epilepsy Awareness Month, I stopped thinking that purple was a sissy color. I don't necessarily, or let me start over. I wouldn't necessarily say that I felt like purple is a sissy color if it involved girls, but these days, I think purple is an awesome color. Whether you're a guy or a girl, it doesn't matter. And I especially think purple is an awesome color because of the fact that I know what it stands for. And it also stands for royalty, if you didn't know. And I didn't even stop to think about that either. So, yes, my opinions have changed quite a bit over the years on a lot of things, including the color purple. But I figured that would be a little bit of interesting topic for some of you guys. Like Caitlin, for example. I know she loves the color purple. Anyway, so eventually I mentioned to some of my teachers that I was interested in preaching, which is why I mentioned that earlier. And they worked something out, and I did go up there. The very first time I went up there and I preached, my hand was like this. But people were so nice about it. They just kind of went with it. And eventually, as I started going up there more, I got more used to it. And the other funny thing is, when I first started preaching in front of a live audience, yeah, I was doing this number a lot, but then I started getting more confidence. And I would say that, when I first started preaching, it was more fun and games for me. My preaching was very shallow versus these days. When I'm like doing my YouTubing, I try to stay more in God's Word, or I try to get more in that direction. But I'll tell you guys right now, there's a reason why I quote Philippians 4:13 all of the time, because I always want to remind everybody that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what the devil puts in your mind. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You just got to pray to God that He'll get you through it. Pray to God that He'll give you the strength that you need to get through whatever you're going through. Even if it's a really hard day at work and you just think that God has given up on you, He hasn't given up on you. Sometimes we have our bad days. Last week was a very bad week for me and my friends. And I woke up this morning and I thought to myself, well, this is a brand new week. There are some things that I did last week that I'm not proud of. Might have actually got a friend of mine in trouble. Probably did. But the thing is, I know what I can and cannot do with that friend at work now, and I'm going to use that to, my advantage this week. I'm not going to go visit that friend at work, and I'm not going to be necessarily messaging that person at work. If I absolutely have to talk to that person, I'll text that person. But otherwise, I know now that person gets off about 4:30 every day. I just have to tell myself to patiently wait until the end of the day, and then I can talk to that person all I want. It's just a matter of being more patient, enjoying the time I do have with this person. I'm not saying names for privacy reasons. All you have to know is I work with this person. That's all you need to know. This person knows who I'm referring to. And that was the one thing that I woke up this morning, it's like, it's a brand new week. Let's see if I can make it a better week. Also, I got Tristan back this week, so I'm very happy about that. Pray for him. He had a very bad week last week. I'm not saying why. All you need to know is he just needs more prayer right now, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But as far as why did I say my school was a Methodist school, I've mentioned a lot about like what we did, what we learned, and how important worship was to us. Well, now it's time to get into the more Methodist side. Well, the spring is a very important time of the year for Methodists, if you are not aware. And one of the reasons why is the Lord's Supper. The Lord's Supper is something that they do around the spring. I know they do it throughout the year too. Well, the Lord's Supper is done differently with Methodists. The Methodists believe that you have to go up to the very front and you have to take a piece of bread off of a big loaf of bread, and then they have a big cup of juice. I know this sounds really gross, especially with COVID going on, but what they do is they take a piece of bread, they dip in the juice, and then they eat it. They do a silent prayer right there, or they go right back to their seat and they pray, while everybody else goes up. And this is all done in complete silence. No music, no talking whatsoever. It's very different. And then the other thing that really impressed me was Methodists take Advent extremely seriously. It's basically when you give up something for about 2 months or so. You're like, what can I give up to that distracts me from God for 2 months? And I'm going to spend that time instead, sorry, I can't talk right, that time dedicated completely to God. So instead of, you know, reaching for that Coke, you're going to spend an extra minute or two, or however long you do that for, reading your Bible. For me, I spend a lot of time on Messenger. So I spend, on average, about 2 to 4 hours a day on Messenger alone. So instead, like, say for example, if I believed in Advent, I would give up Messenger for 2 to 4 hours a day for about 2 months, and instead I would be reading my Bible in its place for 2 to 4 hours every single day for 2 months straight. Now, Advent can work, but it can at the same time. Like, it just really depends. And I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I personally don't believe in Advent. I don't think it works. That doesn't mean that it doesn't work, which is why I said I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I'm not saying it does not work because I don't have that right. There are Methodists, I'm sure, that might watch this, but I'll tell you right now, if you believe that it works, then it works. And I'm not going to argue with you. I just personally don't believe it works. I personally believe what I need to do is I need to spend a lot less time on Messenger. That's all it comes down to it. I personally believe that the amount of time you give God is all a heart thing. And taking away something from your life isn't necessarily going to change it, if that makes any sense. So that's why I instead feel like if I really was so concerned about the amount of time that I spent with God, then I need to reevaluate my life and spend a lot less time on that thing that distracts me the most from God and spend a lot more time with God. That doesn't mean that only once a year for 2 months out of the year I am literally just going to give that thing up. This is something I need to do all year long, not just 2 months out of the year. And that's another reason why I don't believe in Lent, personally. And those were the two biggest differences that I saw going to a Methodist school. And the other ironic thing is, for a Methodist school, everybody pretty much went to different churches, but they all taught us the same exact way, which I guess that makes sense, because think about Answers in Genesis. Now, how many of you guys have been to the Ark Encounter or the Creation Museum? I mean, I can't personally say I see everybody's hands going up or whatever, or hear everybody, but I'll tell you right now, there might be quite a bit of you who are watching this who have been to either attraction, but I'll tell you right now, it's a non-denominational attraction. They're actually both non-denominational attractions. And the sole purpose, sorry, I get tongue-tied sometimes. The sole purpose of Answers in Genesis is to bring everybody back to the first 11 chapters of Genesis, the firm foundation of the Bible. Without those first 11 chapters, even the first book of the Bible, there really is no point in living. Because Ken Ham always likes to remind everybody that without the first 11 chapters of Genesis, there really is like no point of just going from day to day. That is literally the firm foundation of the Bible. It's a firm foundation of life. That is literally where they get everything. There are people from all denominations that go to that work for Answers in Genesis, and I can't exactly say I know exactly all the denominations that work there. I can at least assure everybody that the majority of the people that work for Answers in Genesis are Christians. But the point is, it's a non-denominational organization, and the sole purpose is to teach everybody about Genesis chapters 1 through 11. And that's all I can tell you. Am I going to go around telling everybody what denominations everybody is affiliated with? I can tell you right now, I'm a Southern Baptist, but I can't tell everybody what denominations everybody's affiliated with. I can tell you about myself. There are people that ask what denominations Ken Ham affiliated with. I wouldn't know. and he was very private about that. But Answers in Genesis, I feel like, is a lot like the school I was going to. Everybody was taught the same exact way. But that doesn't mean that everybody that goes there is necessarily going to go to the same exact church, the same denomination. When I was going to Candlelight, there were people that were going to Methodist churches. There were people going to non-denominational churches there. There was a couple of people that were going to Baptist churches. I would say the majority of the people that were going to the majority of the people that were working for Candlelight or going to Candlelight were all part of some kind of non-denominational church. There was also a lot of people that were going to Candlelight that were not necessarily churched. Well, I can at least assure you, or all of you, that everybody that works for Answers in Genesis is churched, because it is a requirement. I really probably shouldn't have said that, but yes, it is one of the requirements for working for Answers in Genesis, and that's as far as I'm going with that. But otherwise, as far as like the school I was going to, no, you didn't have to necessarily go to church anywhere. They just were happy to take you in. I mean, the high school best friend I had, he wasn't churched. Not at all. But that doesn't mean that they were going to go up and ask him, do you go to church anywhere? The middle school I went to, or the place I went to in middle school, not everybody was going to church there. In fact, the one teacher, not saying names, started asking everybody where they went to church at, and where they went to, or whether they went to church or not. And he came upon one person. She said she didn't go to church anywhere. And he's like, you should be going to church. And, well, I don't know if the teacher has a right to start going around telling people whether they should go to church or not. I was a little surprised about that. I mean, this was about 16 years ago that this happened. I mean, I personally believe that everybody should have the choice to go to church. Unless, of course, you go work for a job that requires it. That's a different story. But as far as should you be required to go to church? Did I do a YouTube video about why should you go to church? Of course I did. There's a difference between why you should go to church and am I required to go to church? No, nobody's required to go to church. But we should all go to church. And there's a reason for it. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to judge you for not going to church. Which is basically what I'm trying to get at with the ending of this YouTube video, which I'm getting near the 30-minute mark. And let me check and see how much laptop battery. 27%, went through 10% of it already. I have enough for another YouTube video, which is good. Gonna do another defunct Disney attraction after this one. So I do apologize if I did step on any toes at all. That was not my intention. I just more or less wanted to help people understand the kind of school that I was going to back in high school, and more or less what our chapel services were like, and kind of where everybody was going, and kind of compare that to Answers in Genesis just a little bit. And yes, I was going to church on Wednesday nights back in the day, and I thought it was kind of funny when I was going on Wednesday nights. It was really chill. We just kind of played some games. We did a Bible study. I kind of liked Wednesday nights better than Sunday mornings. There was a time period when I was jumping churches, and I always found it interesting on Sunday mornings. It was with non-denominational churches, at least the one I was going to, it was all about making sure that you had the coffee pots on. It was all about making sure they had breakfast for everybody. And then you always had the group of people that were hiding all the way in the back that were just chit-chatting the entire time. They always had one Sunday a month that they went and socialized somewhere. I felt like God's word was not that important at that church, but at the same time, I might be reading too much into it. I like the church where I'm going to right now because we do feel like it's important to have coffee out for everybody. We do feel like it's important to have water and like cookies. But I also appreciate the fact that they take that all away as soon as church starts because they want people to be in there worshiping God and not out in the lobby necessarily snacking away or talking. And I appreciate the fact that everybody understands that and everybody's in there. And I appreciate the fact that we put so much time and effort into our worship services. And I love our worship services in the sense that it's all about God, and I love our sermons. It's all about God, and it's not about tickling my ear or anything. Even the Bible study I go to on Monday nights, we of course have like half an hour of our time period where it's about fellowship, seeing what's going on in everybody's lives and eating. But then we get right into God's Word. Literally 75% of our Bible study, or the Bible study I go to on Monday nights, which is tonight, is all about God. Half an hour of it is Bible study. Another 15 minutes of it is just worship. Another half an hour of it is just prayer. And then we spend another 15 minutes just kind of chit-chatting afterwards. But we make sure that we don't spend forever just chit-chatting. And my college pastor is very good about that. He watches his time. As soon as it hits 6:30, he cuts off all conversation unless it's about God or the Bible study. All unnecessary conversation is over until after the Bible study. And I appreciate that about him so much. He likes to have fun and talk too, but he also knows that we're there for God and not for ourselves. So, anyways, I once again apologize if I stepped on any toes, but I also pray and hope that I was an encouragement to you guys, and I will see you guys in the next YouTube video. I'm probably going to wait to do my Rise and Fall of Universe of Energy, and the reason why is because I'm waiting until opening day of Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind to post it. That way I can tell you guys why the universe of energy fell apart and what it got replaced by. That way it's on the official opening day. Oh, by the way, today, Cosmic Rewind opened. So I'll figure out what I want to talk about next, but I'm still aiming for doing something Epcot related if possible. Until then, I will see you guys in the next vlog, and always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great day. Peace out.